Most Canadians are unaware that the UN Global Compact on Migration is a UN document, a treaty arranged by the United Nations on behalf of the member states, for which member states are going to sign this agreement on how to manage the global migration, or rather the mass unfettered migration of people from the global south to the global north. The purpose is to see that all the member states are coordinating their effort in the direction and under the direction of the United Nations. Justin Trudeau has agreed to sign because Justin Trudeau, in more ways than one, is the poster child of the United Nations. Justin Trudeau basically believes that it is time that Canada adhere to whatever is defined by the United Nations in terms of international law. Justin Trudeau has said that Canada has no core identity and is a post-national state, by which he means Canada is basically going to be run as a laboratory for the United Nations. A national government is elected to defend the national interest, the national security, and most importantly, the national sovereignty of the country. By this signing away one's sovereignty or diluting one's sovereignty, Canada is becoming increasingly more and more run by laws not made by our national institution, by people who are representative of us in Ottawa, but that we become the rubber stamp of an international agency, the United Nations. But a treaty of the nature that he is signing goes far beyond simply a statute. It goes into altering the character of Canada. And in that sense, he has no right. He has to be stopped. And if he is not stopped, then we have to see that in the next election he is defeated, because an agreement of this nature can only be signed with discussion and consultation with the Canadian people, and an election in which this is discussed should be the central issue, or there should be a referendum. The UN Migration Global Compact is an agreement that in fact dictates the norms, the protocols, the rules and regulations by which nation states are supposed to grant migrants a status in terms of rights of migrants as defined by the UN, those rights being coterminous with the rights of the host country, the citizens of the host country, in this sense Canadians. We as Canadians don't have any say in the matter of how our country is going to accommodate and settle migrants arriving on our borders and seeking entrance into our country. And according to this agreement, migrants arriving on our border have to be welcomed and accorded all the facility that the citizen of Canada takes as their due rights. The UN Global Compact on Migration is not simply about migration, it is also about how our media, how our academia, how our people are supposed to talk about this issue, how they're supposed to facilitate the process by which migrants are absorbed into host countries. And in part, what the Global Compact is saying, that any critical discussion in terms of migrants and who they are and what sort of cultural baggage they represent is termed to be xenophobic, racist, bigoted, and the media therefore has got to be trained to be docile and accommodating to the standards that are being set by the United Nations. The $600 million that Trudeau gave out to the Canadian media is in fact a buyout of the Canadian media, that the Canadian media is therefore agreeing to the very nature of the UN Global Compact and what is being laid out in that compact and how the media should respond. Canada needs to get up and immediately act. By that I mean they must write to the members of parliament, to the members of the legislatures in their provinces, and express their outrage and their opposition to this agreement that is being signed in their name when they have not been consulted, when their opinion have not been sought, and whether they agree with it or not has not been taken into account. As Justin Trudeau says, Canada has no core identity and is a post-national state. In other words, Canadian history is being slowly but surely being stripped away. And so as Canada becomes more and more open to and inundated by migrants, we will be responding to the migrants' interests by accommodating the migrants. We are already a multicultural society. The definition of it is all cultures are equal, which is basically a bogeyman argument. But anyhow, that is our view. And so we then accommodate the migrants' interest, the migrants' view of the world, as opposed to what is our history, our values that has built Canada as one of the most envied countries in the world. And it is this slow dilution of our history in long terms mean that our children, our grandchildren will know less and less about Canada, and they will carry in their heads more and more about their own particular backgrounds. And the Global Compact is not by itself one aspect of this profound change that is being pushed down the throats of Canadians. The UN Global Compact is part of, it's one dot, one element, a part of a series of movements that are taking place in constructing what we might call a borderless world. Other parts, other items that are on the agenda is, for instance, the Paris Accord on climate change. Then there is the controlling the media, where Motion 103 comes in. In terms of Motion M103, the motion says that any discussion of Islam and Muslim, critical discussion of the subject, will be deemed as Islamophobia, and the person doing such discussion would be an Islamophobe, liable to prosecution under the Human Rights Code of the Canadian Human Rights Commission. The most important European leader of the European Union, that is Angela Merkel, as the German Chancellor, she has recently said that it is time for nations to cede their national sovereignty to supranational bodies such as the European Union. She's called upon the French President, Emmanuel Macron, to resign or to step down the French seat at the UN Security Council, to give up the seat to the European Union. The human history is about migration, but we live in the world that belongs to us, of which Canada is a part, is of nation states. And nation states have borders. And we are all in Canada, in the United States, we are all in some ways immigrants, going all the way back to our settler history. Immigration is an act between a person desiring to move to, in this case, Canada, and the people of Canada as represented by the government, and then the government agreeing or not agreeing to invite the immigrant to come and settle in Canada. Migration, as is in the UN Global Compact on migration, is not about immigration. It is about people having the right to move from wherever they are into countries wherever they want to head to. But the direction is only one direction. It is from the global south to the global north. That is from places like the Middle East, Africa, India, etc., to Europe and North America. No migration is taking place in the direction of China or India or Middle East or Africa. So it is one direction, unidirectional, and it's a movement of people, unfettered mass migration towards the global north. In the UN lexicon, there will be no illegal migrant. or illegal immigrants. There will only be regular migrants who will have the same rights as the citizens of the host country. In effect, this is part of erasing national boundaries and behind it, national sovereignty of states like Canada or the European member states, the EU member states, such as Italy, Spain, Hungary, Poland, so on and so forth. The ultimate goal of the globalists, I mean, that's the design for the 21st century world order, the globalist world order, is the world going to be directed from one international body, in this case the United Nations, and the United Nations will set the agenda for all of its member states to follow. The world, in effect, would be a world without borders, a borderless world, a world that is then run by the unelected representatives of the United Nations and its agencies. Now, to achieve that world, to arrive at that position, then the nation states have to slowly dissolve. And how to make the nation state slowly dissolve is when the nation state willingly gives up its own interests, its own sovereignty to this international body, the United Nations. The UN Global Compact on Migration is one piece of the process by which Canada then dilutes and gives up its authority on controlling who enters Canada, on what condition they enter Canada, whether those who enter Canada by the decision of the Canadian government, representative of the Canadian people, are going to be beneficial to the interests of Canada, protective of Canadian history and values, or the decision will be made by the unelected representatives in New York or Geneva who have no concern of the particular needs of Canadian people. It is their agenda that Canada has to accommodate whatever number they set up for Canada to accommodate. The United States under President Trump and the Republican Party is committed to defending the United States national interest, the United States Constitution. Ultimately, it is the United States that makes the rule of law for Americans. And this is the struggle that is going on as we are right now witnessing the movement, the mass unfettered movement or migration from Central and South America towards the southern borders of the United States. And the urgency by which President Trump and his people are trying to meet this situation by the call to build a wall to protect United States territory from this unfettered mass movement of people. Now, if such a movement is threatened from its northern borders coming south to United States, then that will lead to a very serious disruption of Canadian-US relationship. The Americans are going to act. That is very predictable. Whether they're going to act by trying to build a border along the longest undefended frontier in the world, or by means that modern technology will provide the United States to police the border and secure the border from the sort of traffic we now have between the United States and Canada.